Hi, happy Sunday, and welcome to Far From Eden. Sunday is kind of special around here, at least for me. I really enjoy it because Sunday is the day that we read a fairy tale. And it all got started, if you're new to the channel, it all got started because I wanted to see what the original lessons were. Because I knew Cinderella was different, I knew some of the other ones were different, but what we found was they used to know a lot of things back then, some very important empirical truth about male nature and female nature. And boy, it's been more illuminating than I could have ever imagined. And we've gotten through all the ones that are the most famous, like Hansel and Gretel, Cinderella, Snow White, Rapunzel. Sometimes I can find them in this old book, but it's not old enough. It's only early 20th century. This is Grimm's Fairy Tales, and it is quite old, but the original was in 1812. Sometimes we have to go to the internet and find those. Now that we're through some of the classics that everybody's familiar with, let's just dig into some of the ones I've never heard of, maybe you haven't either, and see what other lessons the Grimm brothers thought were so important that they traveled through Europe collecting these tales, collecting these stories to pass them on. I think they realized that these lessons and truths needed to be preserved and that it was important that we remember them. And I'll just say that if anybody has watched or heard about the Olympic opening ceremonies and what was on display there, I think the Grimm brothers were right about the things we needed to remember. That's the train. I love the train. Anyway, I don't know if you guys can hear it, but yeah, that's the train. Big fan. Anyway, I want to remember these stories. I don't know how long the other ones that aren't in this book that are in the 1812 version will still be on the internet. Will they change them like they change everything else? History, everything. They don't want us to know. They don't want us to know what we used to know. In fact, sometimes when I talk about the nature of, some would say, what was it used to call the fairer gender? If I refer to that at all, the YouTube AI or whatever will hear it and say, no, we're going to demonetize this video. And I don't care about that. But the problem is with that is YouTube will say, yeah, we're demonetizing this video. And when they do that, they shadow ban it and it doesn't reach people. Because at the end of the day, that's what the overlords really want. They don't want a lot of truth told. They want you to believe their lies, and they want you to never have to change your mind and teach you that, for example, what you saw in the Olympic opening ceremonies is normal and good and liberty and love and tolerance and all of this. And what it really is debauchery, degeneracy, and basically, in my mind, evil on full display. Evil doesn't come with horns and a pitchfork, usually. No one would ever willingly follow it if it did. Once upon a time, it came in the form of a fruit with a serpent talking about that fruit to a lady named Eve. And it seemed like, oh yeah, this is good. Why would God keep this from me? Well, we know now, don't we? So we are going to read the first tale in this book of mine that is falling apart. I'm like, hold it together. I need to go and have it, rebound and preserved as much as possible. I'm holding it together myself here. The first tale in this book is called Hans in Luck. So, no idea what it's about. That's exciting. Hans in Luck. Hans had served his master 7 years, and at last said to him, "Master, my time is up. I should like to go home and see my mother, so give me my wages." And the master said, "You have been a faithful and good servant, so your pay shall be handsome." I just want to say that biblically, 7 is a number of completion. So it's interesting to me that there are, again, in these tales, signs of that the Bible was behind it. It was sort of something that everybody accepted. Then he gave him a piece of silver that was as big as his head. Hans took out his pocket handkerchief, put the piece of silver into it, threw it over his shoulder, and jogged off homewards. As he went lazily on, dragging one foot after another, a man came in sight, trotting along gaily on a capital horse. "Ah," said Hans aloud, "what a fine thing it is to ride on horseback. There he sits, as if he was at home in his chair. He trips against no stones, spares his shoes, and yet gets on he hardly knows how." The horseman heard this and said, "Well, Hans, why do you go on foot then?" "Ah," said he, "I have this load to carry. To be sure, it is silver, but is so heavy that I can't hold up my head, and it hurts my shoulder sadly." "What do you say to changing?" said the horseman. "I will give you my horse, and you shall give me the silver." Now, hold on one second. You guys who are, friends of this channel, been with me for a while, you guys know that I was an equestrian for many years, mostly retired now. Just do a little tiny bit of coaching and instruction. So he wants to trade all that silver for a horse. I'm not sure that's the best idea, but my horse crazy girl brain probably would do that too. "I will give you my horse, and you shall give me the silver." "With all my heart," said Hans, "but I tell you one thing, you'll have a weary task to drag it along." The horseman got off, took the silver, helped Hans up, gave him the bridle into his hand, and said, "When you want to go very fast, you must smack your lips loud and cry, 'Jip!'" Hans was delighted as he sat on the horse and rode merrily on. After a time, he thought he should like to go a little faster. So he smacked his lips and cried, "Jip!" Away went the horse, full gallop, and before Hans knew what he was about, he was thrown off and lay in a ditch by the roadside. And his horse would have run off if a shepherd who was coming by driving a cow had not stopped it. Hans soon came to himself and got upon his legs again. He was sadly vexed and said to the shepherd, This riding is no joke when a man gets on a beast like this, that stumbles and flings him off as if he would break his neck. However, I'm off now once for all. I like your cow a great deal better. One can walk along at one's leisure behind her and have milk, butter, and cheese every day into the bargain. What would I give to have such a cow?" He seems like he's never happy. He's got this big thing of silver, and he wanted something different. And then when he was on the horse wasn't going fast enough. And I don't think this man was a very good rider because he asked the horse to go faster and he didn't have the skill to stay with it. Then he blames the horse and wants something different. I don't know that that's a good way to be. So he's thinking the cow is going to be much better than the horse was. Blaming the horse. It's like, you did that. That's rider error. Anyway, it's not the point of the story. So, I'm sorry. Well, said the shepherd, if you're so fond of her, I will change my cow for your horse. Done, said Hans merrily. The shepherd jumped upon the horse, and away he rode. Hans drove off his cow quietly. Hans drove off his cow quietly and thought his bargain a very lucky one. That's what he thought about the horse. If I have only a piece of bread, and I certainly shall be able to get that, I can, whenever I like, eat my butter and cheese with it. And when I am thirsty, I can milk my cow and drink the milk. What can I wish for more? When he came to an inn, he halted, ate up all his bread, and gave away his last penny for a glass of beer. Then he drove his cow toward his mother's village, and the heat grew greater as noon came on, till at last he found himself on a wide heath that would take him more than an hour to cross, and he began to be so hot and parched that his tongue clave to the roof of his mouth. I can find a cure for this, thought he. Now will I milk my cow and quench my thirst. So he tied her to the stump of a tree and held his leathern cap to milk into, but not a drop was to be had. While he was trying his luck and managing the matter very clumsily, the uneasy beast gave him a kick on the head that knocked him down, and there he lay a long while senseless. He didn't know what he was doing there either. He just thought that would be easy. I'll just have this and have that. It's like, I think there's a skill somewhat when you're going to milk a cow. He clearly did not know. Luckily, a butcher soon came by, driving a pig in a wheelbarrow. What is the matter with you? Said the butcher as he helped him up. Hans told him what had happened, and the butcher gave him a flask, saying, There, drink and refresh yourself. Your cow will give you no milk. She is an old beast, good for nothing but the slaughterhouse. Uh-oh, the shepherd gave him a bad deal, maybe? Alas, alas, said Hans. Who would have thought it? If I kill her, what will she be good for? I hate cow beef. It is not tender enough for me. If it were a pig now, one could do something with it. It would at any rate make some sausages. Well, said the butcher, to please you, I'll change and give you the pig for the cow. Heaven reward you for your kindness, said Hans, as he gave the butcher the cow and took the pig off the wheelbarrow and drove it off, holding it by the string that was tied to its leg. So on he jogged, and all seemed now to go right with him. He had met with some misfortunes, to be sure, but he was now well repaid for all. The next person he met was a countryman carrying a fine white goose under his arm. The countryman stopped to ask what was o'clock, and Hans told him all his luck and how he had made so many good bargains. The countryman said he was going to take the goose to a christening. Aw, a christening. If any of you don't know what a christening is, it is what the Protestants do, at least what the Anglicans do with the little babies when they're young. Like the Catholics do a baptism with the little sprinkling of the water on the baby, and Protestants do a christening. It's sort of the parents' promise to raise the baby as a believer. So it's lovely to hear that term. I don't hear it very often. It just makes me feel at home. So he's taking the goose to a christening. I don't know what the goose is going to do at a christening. Feel, said he, how heavy it is, and yet it is only 8 weeks old. Whoever roasts and eats it may cut plenty fat off. It has lived so well." "You're right," said Hans as he weighed it in his hand, "but my pig is no trifle." Meantime, the countryman began to look grave and shook his head. "Hark ye," said he, "my good friend, your pig may get you into a scrape in the village I just come from. The squire has had a pig stolen out of his sty. I was dreadfully afraid when I saw you that you had got the squire's pig. It will be a bad job if they catch you. The least they'll do will be to throw you into the horse pond." Poor Hans was sadly frightened. "Good man," cried he, "pray get me out of this scrape. You know this country better than I. Take my pig and give me the goose." "I ought to have something into the bargain," said the countryman. "However, I will not bear hard upon you, as you are in trouble." Then he took the string in his hand and drove off the pig by a side path, while Hans went on the way homewards, free from care. "Oh, after all," thought he, "I have the best of the bargain. First there will be a capital roast. Then the fat will find me in goose grease for 6 months. And then there are all the beautiful white feathers. I will put them into my pillow, and then I am sure I shall sleep soundly without rocking. How happy my mother will be." As he came to the last village, he saw a scissor grinder with his wheel, working away and singing. A scissor grinder? Okay, I guess that's a person. And he has his wheel working away and singing. Okay, this is what he's singing. "O'er hill and o'er dale, so happy I roam. Work light and live well, all the world is my home. Who so blithe, so merry as I?" Hans stood looking for a while, and at last said, "You must be well off, Master Grinder. You seem so happy at your work." Ah, Hans has just revealed something. "You must be well off, Master Grinder. You seem so happy at your work." He's got the idea that if you're happy, it must be that you're well off. "Yes," said the other, "mine is a golden trade. A good grinder never puts his hand in his pocket without finding money in it." "But where did you get that beautiful goose?" "I did not buy it, but changed a pig for it." "And where, he's telling him he had the pig. Don't tell him that. There was a pig stolen." Oh my goodness. I think Hans is a little naive. "And where did you get the pig?" "I gave a cow for it." "And the cow?" "I gave a horse for it." "And the horse?" "I gave a piece of silver as big as my head for that." "And the silver?" "Oh, I worked hard for that, 7 long years." "You have thriven well, thriven? I don't know. You have thriven well in the world hitherto," said the grinder. "Now, if you could find money in your pocket, whenever you put your hand into it, your fortune would be made." "Very true. But how is that to be managed?" "You must turn grinder like me," said the other. "You only want a grindstone. The rest will come of itself. Here is one that is a little worse for wear. I would not ask more than the value of your goose for it. Will you buy?" "How can you ask such a question?" replied Hans. "I should be the happiest man in the world if I could have money whenever I put my hand in my pocket. What could I want more? There's the goose." "Now," said the grinder, as he gave him a common rough stone that lay by his side. What is he doing? "This is a most capital stone. Do but manage it cleverly, and you can make an old nail cut with it." Ah. Hans took the stone and went off with a light heart. His eyes sparkled for joy, and he said to himself, I must have been in a lucky hour. Everything that I want or wish for comes to me of itself. Meantime, he began to be tired, for he had been traveling ever since daybreak. He had been traveling ever since daybreak. He was hungry too, for he had given away his last penny in his joy at getting the cow. At last he could go no further, and the stone tired him terribly. He dragged himself to the side of a pond. To the side of a pond that he might drink some water and rest a while. So he laid the stone carefully by his side on the bank. But as he stooped down to drink, he forgot it, pushed it a little, and down it went, plump, into the pond. For a while he watched it sinking in the deep, clear water, then sprang up for joy and again fell upon his knees and thanked heaven with tears in his eyes for its kindness in taking away his only plague, the ugly, heavy stone. How happy am I, cried he. No mortal was ever so lucky as I am. Then up he got with a light and merry heart and walked on free from all his troubles till he reached his mother's house. Free from all his troubles. He earned that silver, but it caused him trouble. So he said, I'll trade it for something else. And that caused him trouble. He kept searching for something better, something materialistic that would make his life better. He kept hungering for it. And each time it didn't fulfill him the way he imagined. He was always grateful to get the next thing, but it didn't fulfill him. It only caused him trouble. It only weighed him down, or the horse threw him off. The cow kicked him in the head. The stone was heavy. The pig, I forget what the pig's problem was, but it was never worth it. It seems to me that it's saying that a man's fulfillment can't be found in material things. Hans kept thinking that would be the case, and it was never the case. It was always more trouble. Oh my goodness. My weirdo brain just said to me, and I apologize, but my Gen Xers and probably some millennials and more money, more problems, right? That seems to be what it was. It wasn't what was important. Now, he does have to eat, obviously. But I think the moral is that all of these things were empty. And you know what? I think it's true. I think there's so many men right now in today's society that are pulling back. The MGTOW ghosts are sort of those. It's not just that they're walking away from relationship and even some dating or trying to date because, it's not worth it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. But not only that, they're starting to pull back from, these big careers with all of this, all these long hours and I just realized my camera is not positioned right. There we go. Sorry. All of these long hours and expectations, and they're like, but why? What is the point? And I love it because men are they're happy. They're simple, and that's not an insult. A man, I've seen this meme before where it shows like a man's, all a man needs, and it's a mattress, a Bible. I think it was a Catholic meme, so there was a rosary, because what it's silly. It's silly. in my opinion, it is silly to want these big houses with these big mortgages and these fancy cars. It's just to show off. You know, it doesn't make you happy. It doesn't fulfill you. And so many men have said, why would I do that? Why would I do that? That's not what I want. What are you paying for? Taxes? You're in a higher tax bracket. Where does that go? Fatherless homes. I say it in a way that the YouTube AI doesn't really think it's, fatherless homes. So the homes are headed by someone who's not a father and they are single. It doesn't turn out well. So you're paying taxes and it's going to those women who have, been irresponsible or broken up the family, etc. And men are saying, well, why would I do that? It doesn't make you happy. And I think by and large, they're looking to things that do feed their souls. None of these things that Hans had, the silver, the horse, the cow, the pig, the goose, the stone, I hope I didn't skip anything. None of those things fulfilled him. None of those things fed his soul. Men are realizing that they're coming back to religion. They're finding Christianity for the first time. They're going to nature. They're working out. They're being healthy. They're doing the carnivore diet. They're doing keto. They're investing in things that matter. They're investing in themselves in a meaningful way. We don't know what Hans did when he got home, but I would say Hans learned that, none of that is going to fulfill me. I'll always just want something else. I'll always just want something more. You'll be insatiable. It's a bottomless pit. We see this with women today, with modern women today. It's never enough. You can't make them happy. Men, however, are realizing that. And they're getting off the hamster wheel. They're not chasing these meaningless things because it doesn't fill you up where it's important. I am so thankful for the Grimm brothers. I'm thankful that they wrote down these stories. And I happened to pick this book up. I was getting some furniture for my apartment and I didn't really have any furniture. And I had a friend whose father was in his 90s and he didn't want to sell his home because that was his home, but he couldn't live there anymore by himself. So they kept the home as he, moved in with them and later to a nursing facility. And I think he's still with us. Actually, this is his recliner right here. This is his recliner. And I'm blessed to have it. And I also got an old dresser that's made of real wood, and a kitchen table that's solid and made of wood. It has scratches and marks and stuff, but it's valuable. Anyway, I was walking through and I happened to see a book and it was very old. And right away I was like, what is this old book? And I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And I'd heard this, that there were fairy tales that were very different than Disney. Boy, are they. And some never really. This one, Hans and Lot, and had it here. Oops, so sorry for the technical difficulties. That was weird. That's never happened before. Well, hopefully we're still good. I'm rambling. Anyway, I love this book. I picked it up. It was very old. Didn't think anything more about it. And then finally, it's now part of this channel. And it's not the biggest videos, like it doesn't get a ton of views, and that's fine because it doesn't matter. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to share truth and keep old things alive. It's super important because the powers that be want to destroy all of that, and they want to destroy our culture. So thank you guys for joining me with this fairy tale. I love it. I love you guys. Don't forget to protect your peace. Don't forget to feed your souls. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.